Now we're just strangers again. Ain't even my friend. Not how I want it to end. Can we just pretend?
The High Mystic's chamber was unnervingly quiet, save for the gentle hum of magic that resonated through its walls. The crimson glow of the mystic's eyes pierced the dim light, illuminating the intricate carvings that depicted Ocearis' history. Kamari and Malik stood in silence, their hearts heavy with the weight of their renewed trust and the growing threat to their city. The shattered gates are failing. The mystic began, their voice rippling like waves in a storm. They are the only barrier keeping the forces of the abyss at bay. If they collapse, Ocearis will drown in darkness. Kamari's chest tightened. What can we do? The mystic stepped forward, their ethereal robes flowing as if moved by an unseen current. The power to repair the gates lies within the fountain of eternity, hidden deep within the ruins of Ocearis' first temple. It is a place of great power and great peril. What's the catch? Malik asked, his tone edged with wariness. The mystic's gaze turned solemn. The fountain is guarded by the Warden of Tides, a being as ancient as the city itself. It will not grant its power lightly. You will face trials of mind, body, and spirit. Only those with unwavering unity can succeed. Kamari glanced at Malik, a flicker of doubt crossing their features. But Malik reached out, his hand brushing Kamari's. We'll face it together. The mystic's lips curled into a faint, knowing smile. Then may the tides guide you. The journey to the ruins was both breathtaking and harrowing. Bioluminescent coral forests stretched like cathedrals beneath the water, their vibrant colors painting the seascape in hues of green, blue, and gold. Schools of glowing fish darted between the towering spires, their movements synchronized like a silent dance. But beauty gave way to danger as they ventured deeper. The waters grew darker, and the once friendly glow of the corals turned ominous, their light flickering like dying embers. This place feels wrong, Kamari murmured, their voice muffled by the surrounding water. It's ancient, Malik replied, his light magic casting a faint golden glow around them. The magic here is different, heavier. Suddenly, a serpentine creature burst from the shadows, its translucent body writhing with bioluminescent veins. Its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. "Kamari, now!" Malik shouted. Kamari's sound magic erupted in a wave, disorienting the creature as it lunged. Malik followed with a blast of concentrated light, forcing it to retreat into the abyss. As the creature vanished, Kamari exhaled shakily. Is everything out to get us? Malik nodded, his expression grim. We need to stay sharp. The ruins of the first temple loomed before them, a colossal structure carved into the side of an underwater cliff. The entrance was marked by an intricate archway, adorned with glowing symbols that shifted and pulsed like a heartbeat. Beyond it, the fountain of eternity shimmered faintly, its light barely visible through the thick, murky water. But as they approached, the water around them began to churn. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, and the Warden of Tides emerged. It was a being of immense size and shifting form, its body a kaleidoscope of glowing patterns that seemed to ripple with the ocean's will. Its voice echoed in their minds rather than their ears. You seek the power of the fountain, the Warden intoned, its many eyes narrowing. But only those who are worthy may claim it. Step forward and be tested. Kamari swam cautiously through the coral spires, the glowing light of Malik's magic fading in the distance as he ventured deeper into the bioluminescent forest. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the faint hum of the water around him. His fingers trailed along the pulsating coral walls, their light dimming as if sensing his unease. Suddenly the water grew cold. A chill rippled through Kamari's body, and the vibrant colors of the forest seemed to bleed away, leaving the surroundings dull and lifeless. He froze, his instincts screaming that he wasn't alone. A shadow shifted in the periphery of his vision. Before he could turn, a massive serpentine creature lunged from the darkness, its translucent body glowing faintly with bioluminescent veins. Its eyes burned with an unnatural light, and its rows of needle-like teeth glinted as it snapped at him. Kamari barely dodged, twisting his body to avoid the creature's jaws. The force of its strike sent a shockwave through the water, and he was thrown against the coral. Pain shot through his side as jagged edges tore at his skin, but he couldn't afford to stop. The serpent coiled, preparing for another strike. Kamari's breathing quickened as he raised his hands, summoning the familiar vibrations of his power. The water around him began to tremble, a low hum building as he focused. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself, his voice steady despite his fear. "Feel the sound. Control it." The serpent lunged again, but this time Kamari was ready. With a sharp cry, he released a concentrated wave of sound, the vibrations rippling outward in a visible distortion. The creature was hit mid-attack, its body recoiling as the force knocked it back. It twisted in pain, emitting a high-pitched screech that made Kamari's ears ring. He didn't let up, channeling more power into the next wave. The water around him pulsed with energy as he focused his magic, each pulse growing stronger and more precise. The serpent thrashed, its movements becoming erratic. Kamari could feel his power draining, but he gritted his teeth and pushed harder. He aimed for the creature's glowing veins, releasing a final burst of sound that struck it directly in the head. With a deafening shriek, the serpent collapsed, its body going limp as it sank into the darkness below. Kamari's chest heaved as he floated in place, the water around him eerily still once more. He pressed a hand to his side, wincing at the pain from the coral's jagged edges. "You're tougher than you look," he muttered, glancing down at the faint glow of his wounds. In the distance, Malik's golden light reappeared, growing brighter as he swam toward Kamari. "Kamari, are you okay?" Malik's voice was sharp with concern as he reached him, his hands glowing faintly as he examined Kamari's injuries. "I'm fine," Kamari said, brushing him off with a small smile. "The serpent's not, though." Malik glanced into the darkness, his expression shifting from worry to pride. "You fought it off by yourself?" Kamari smirked, his confidence returning. "You doubted me," Malik chuckled, shaking his head. "Never." He extended his hand. "Come on. Let's get you patched up before anything else decides to take a shot at you." Kamari took Malik's hand, his grip firm. As they swam back toward the safety of the coral forest, Kamari couldn't help but glance over his shoulder, a flicker of pride burning in his chest. His powers were growing stronger, and for the first time in a long while, he felt like he could face whatever lay ahead. The coral forest thinned into jagged seabed terrain, each step forward more daunting than the last. The light of the shattered fragment pulsed ahead, a hypnotic beacon in the oppressive darkness. Malik swam slightly ahead, his glowing golden hands outstretched to light the way, while Kamari followed, his sharp gaze scanning their surroundings. "It's stronger than I thought," Kamari said, his voice low, the vibrations of his words cutting through the water like whispers. Malik glanced over his shoulder. "The pearl fragment? Or whatever's guarding it?" Kamari grimaced. "Both." As they approached, the terrain seemed to come alive. The rocky crevice holding the fragment glowed faintly, its surface covered in intricate ancient markings. Kamari's breath caught in his throat. These weren't just decorations. They were warnings. "This doesn't feel right," Kamari muttered, stopping short. Malik crouched beside the crevice, squinting at the markings. "It's a seal. Someone, or something, put this here to keep the pearl contained." Before they could analyze further, the water shifted. A low, guttural rumble echoed through the abyss, and the light of the pearl grew brighter. Dark figures began to materialize, their forms rippling as though they were born of the water itself. They were tall, faceless shadows with limbs that stretched unnaturally, and their glowing white eyes fixed on the intruders. "Kamari," Malik began, but he didn't need to finish. "I see them!" Kamari snapped, already summoning the familiar hum of his magic. Sound waves pulsed through the water, sending ripples toward the figures. The creatures hesitated, their movements stuttering as the vibrations reached them. "Get the pearl!" Malik ordered, stepping forward to shield Kamari. His light flared brighter, cutting through the water like a golden blade. Kamari dove toward the crevice, his hands trembling as he reached for the fragment. The light of the pearl was overwhelming, its magic coursing through his body the moment his fingers touched it. His vision blurred, and for a brief moment he saw flashes of something. No, someone. A woman. Her voice distant but clear. "You must choose. Strength or ruin." "Kamari, move!" Malik shouted, breaking him from his trance. The shadowy figures lunged, but Malik intercepted them with a blast of light. The water around him glowed like molten gold, forcing the creatures back, though they were relentless. "I've got it!" Kamari called out, gripping the fragment tightly. The moment it left its resting place, the markings on the crevice flared, and the figures let out an ear-piercing wail. "They're angry," Malik muttered, throwing another burst of light to keep them at bay. "Let's go!" Kamari swam toward him, with one final surge of their combined powers, Kamari's sound waves and Malik's light. They forced the shadows to dissipate, leaving only silence in their wake. The High Mystic's chamber was alive with light and sound as the fragment of the binding pearl radiated its power. Kamari and Malik stood at the center, their bodies tense but their heads high. They had fought hard for this moment, but the weight of what they had endured clung to them like the water around them. The mystic approached, their crimson eyes narrowing as they reached out for the fragment. "You have done what many could not. The gates will hold, for now." Kamari handed over the fragment, watching as the mystic began to chant. The ancient language was rhythmic and melodic, sending waves of energy through the chamber. The pearl's light grew brighter, spreading through the carvings on the walls, until the entire room pulsed with power. Malik stepped forward, his arms crossed. "So that's it? The gates are fixed, and Ocearis is safe?" The mystic turned slowly, their gaze heavy. "The city is safe, for now. But the cracks in the gates were not the true threat. They were a symptom of something far greater." Kamari frowned. "What are you saying?" The mystic's robes seemed to ripple as they spoke. "The abyss is only the beginning. The binding pearl was forged to seal away a force so ancient, so powerful, that its name has been forgotten. But it stirs now, awakening after centuries of slumber." Malik's jaw tightened. "What kind of force?" The mystic's voice grew softer, almost mournful. "One that could unmake the world. When the pearl shattered, it was not merely the gates that were affected. The seal on this force weakened, and it will not be long before it fully breaks." Kamari clenched his fists. "Then we fight it, like we always do." The mystic smiled faintly, their expression both proud and sad. "You are brave, Kamari. But bravery alone will not be enough. The bond between you and Malik will be tested in ways you cannot imagine. Your strength will be pushed to its limits. If you falter, the cost will be the end of all things." Malik glanced at Kamari, his expression unreadable. "We've been through hell already. What's a little more?" The mystic's gaze lingered on them. "Prepare yourselves. What lies ahead will challenge not just your powers, but your very souls. The survival of Ocearis and the world above rests on your shoulders." The room fell silent, the glow of the pearl fragment fading as the mystic turned away. Kamari and Malik exchanged a long look, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten. "We'll figure it out," Kamari said firmly, his voice steady despite the storm brewing within him. Malik nodded. "We always do." Together they left the chamber, their hearts heavy but their resolve unshaken. Whatever danger awaited, they would face it together.
Now we're just strangers again. Ain't even my friend. Not how I want it to end. Can we just pretend?